This story starts with something most of us remember from childhood. Those creepy chain emails that threatened you with death if you didn't forward them. But for one person, opening one of those messages in 2025 wasn't just a blast from the past. It was the beginning of something truly horrifying. I woke up to what I thought was going to be a normal day. The same boring routine I had repeated for years. A cup of coffee in the morning, some YouTube videos playing on the side while I half-heartedly scrolled through my emails. Nothing ever interesting, nothing ever unusual. But this morning was different. This morning, something landed in my inbox that pulled me right back into the memories of being a terrified 13-year-old. The days of creepy chain emails and scare posts, the ones that warned you if you didn't forward them, you'd be dead by sunrise. Back then, it was laughable, but also just believable enough to force me to hit that share button. And though I never admitted it, a small part of me still remembered the cold chill in my chest as I stared at those words on the screen. Keep reading. Do not ignore. So when I saw the subject line in bold letters this morning that simply said, "Sorry," I felt that same cold chill return. I knew I shouldn't click it. I knew it could be malware, some scam, some lazy attempt at fear, but curiosity is a dangerous thing, and I clicked. The body of the email was short, written in all caps. One night a woman was hit by a speeding car. The driver dragged her bleeding body into the sewers and left her to die. They found her 2 days later, but 2 weeks after that she was missing. Her body bag filled with sewage. If you do not forward this to 5 others by midnight, she will be in your room tonight. This is not a joke. You know what you did. I actually laughed out loud. What kind of ridiculous story was this? Some reboot of a childhood scare tactic, but then I saw there was an attachment, a single PNG file called HER. I expected some low-effort jump-scare image, maybe a demon girl ripped from a horror movie, but when I opened it, it was just pure black, an empty screen. I almost closed my laptop right then, annoyed at myself for wasting time. But the day went on. Work dragged. I went to my boxing class, came home tired, and while sipping a glass of sangria, I texted a girl I'd matched with on Hinge named Elisa. We were struggling for conversation, so I brought up the email. She found it hilarious, asked me to forward it, so I did. A few minutes later, she sent me a message. "Holy shit, that's terrifying." I typed back sarcastically, "I know, I'm shaking." But then she said she wasn't joking. She said she wasn't talking about the story. She said, "Look at the image again. Turn your brightness all the way up." My stomach sank. I didn't want to, but I did. I turned off the lights, opened the file, maxed the brightness, and stared. At first nothing, then slowly shapes, faint reflections, a row of teeth barely catching the screen's glow, curved upward into a grin. Above them, 2 eyes stretched wide, too wide, like someone was forcing them open. My breath caught, my skin prickled, and I snapped the lights back on. But curiosity still ate at me. Elisa sent me another message. She said she put the image through Lightroom, boosted the exposure, and she was sending me her version. I hesitated before opening it, but when I did, my chest tightened. It wasn't just a shadow anymore. It was a face, or something pretending to be one. Pale skin so white it looked painted, a smile stretched in a way no human jaw should. Teeth clenched tight together, nostrils flared like empty barrels, the eyes enormous and furious. Owl-like, but narrowed with hatred. The contradiction of features was maddening. I tried reverse searching it. Nothing. No record of it. Not art, not AI. Nothing. That made it worse. My head spun with unease. Then a knock at my door made me jump out of my skin. I checked the time, 10 past midnight. Standing outside was a police officer, a woman with sharp eyes and a hand near her holster. She told me to step out immediately. No explanation, just urgency in her tone. She pulled me into the parking lot and told me she had been called for a noise complaint, but when she passed my window, she saw something inside, a figure standing completely still near my door, watching, waiting. She said it didn't look like a mannequin. It looked dangerous. My blood froze. I remembered leaving my blinds open. I remembered walking through the room earlier, but not looking toward the door. Could I have missed it? Could something have been standing there while I passed? The officer kept glancing at my window, her hand never leaving her weapon. She said backup was on the way, that I should stay out, so we waited. Every second felt like an eternity. I thought I heard faint sounds drifting from inside my apartment. Muffled shuffling, a dragging noise like wet cloth being pulled across the floor. When backup arrived, they entered. I watched from the lot as their flashlights swept through the rooms, faint beams cutting across the curtains, but then a scream. Sharp, panicked, cut off too quickly. The radios crackled with static, and the rest of the officers ran in, guns drawn. My body was shaking as I stood by, but what terrified me more was the silence that followed. Too long, too heavy. Finally, one officer came back out, his face pale, his hands trembling. He told me they hadn't found anyone, but my apartment smelled like rotting sewage, thick and heavy, coating the air. They searched top to bottom, nothing there, but something wet was smeared across my walls, brown and black stains that dripped slowly as if freshly painted. They wouldn't let me back inside, said they had to file a report. But when I asked what the stains looked like, nobody wanted to answer. One finally muttered under his breath. It looked like long handprints, too long, stretching across the walls. I didn't sleep that night. I checked my phone constantly. Elisa messaged again. She said after she opened the edited picture, she heard breathing in her apartment. Thought it was her imagination until her bathroom light turned on by itself. Her messages became frantic, then stopped altogether. I tried calling, no answer. Later that night, another email hit my inbox. No subject line this time, just the same black image. Only when I opened it, I didn't need to raise the brightness. I didn't need to edit it. The face was already there, fully visible, smiling at me, closer than before, her teeth filling the frame, and I swear I heard something dripping in my living room, like water spilling slowly onto the floor. I don't know how long I sat frozen staring at the screen. I only know that when I finally gathered the courage to close the laptop, the sound stopped, but the air felt heavier, thick, sour, like I was breathing inside a sewer tunnel. It's been days since then. Elisa hasn't answered. The police won't let me stay in my apartment. They say it's a hazard, but they don't understand. It's not my apartment that's the problem, it's me. I forwarded the email, I opened the file, and now I think whatever she is, she's attached herself, not to a place, but to the people who see her. And if you've listened this far, if you've imagined her face while I described it, then maybe you've already seen her too. Maybe you'll hear the dripping tonight. Maybe you'll notice the smile forming in the darkness of your room. And maybe, just maybe, you'll regret not forwarding this before midnight. Some stories sound like movies, but this one was real, and I've been trying to forget it ever since. It started with boredom after watching Annabelle. I found myself scrolling the darker corners of the internet late one night, and that's when I saw it. An old porcelain doll. The description was short, almost like a dare. Haunted, do not buy unless you're ready. The price was only $15. Too cheap for a real antique, but too creepy not to wonder about. Against every instinct, I clicked purchase. A week later, the package arrived with no return address, no labels, just my name scribbled in black marker. Inside was the doll. Its porcelain face was cracked, one eye slightly larger than the other, and it carried a faint burnt smell, like wood after a house fire. I set it on my shelf, convincing myself it was just another weird collector's item. But that night, everything changed. At 2:47 a.m., I woke up to a room that felt wrong, colder than usual, heavy with silence, and then I heard whispers, so faint I couldn't tell if they were outside or inside my head. I sat up, and that's when I noticed it. The doll wasn't on the shelf anymore. It was standing upright, just a few feet from my bed. I froze, unable to breathe, until I blinked and convinced myself I was imagining it. The next morning, I shoved it back on the shelf and laughed it off, but the following nights proved I was wrong. No matter where I put the doll, on the shelf, in a drawer, even locked inside a box, I'd wake up to find it somewhere closer. Footsteps echoed in the hallway when no one was there. Lights flickered without reason. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. One night, I woke to 3 knocks, slow and deliberate, but they weren't coming from the door. They were coming from inside my closet. When I opened it, the doll was sitting there, staring up at me. My stomach twisted. My skin crawled, but I forced myself to grab it and shove it back on the shelf. By the 4th night, I couldn't take it anymore, so I called a priest. He arrived calm, carrying holy water and a Bible, and for a moment, I believed he could fix this. He sprinkled the water and whispered Latin prayers, but as soon as he did, the room dropped in temperature. My breath fogged in front of me. The lights flickered violently, and then the doll's head turned, snapping toward him with a crack that made my stomach churn. His voice broke, his hands shook, and then the whispers turned into screams. Dozens of voices shrieking, layered on top of each other until the sound felt unbearable. The priest dropped everything and ran, shouting at me to burn it. He didn't finish the ritual. He didn't even close the door behind him. That night, I snapped. I dragged the doll outside, my hands shaking, my chest tight with panic. I doused it in kerosene and struck a match. The flames roared to life, consuming its porcelain skin, and I swear I heard it scream as the face blackened and split where nothing but ashes remained. I drove far into the forest, buried the remains under dirt and branches, and told myself it was finally over, but I was wrong. A week later, I was lying in bed when I heard it again, a faint scratching sound at my window. At first, I thought it was just a tree branch, but when I pulled back the curtain, my stomach dropped. There was no branch, just a small, shadowy outline, 2 hands pressed against the glass, and a whisper saying my name. Now, every few nights, I hear it. Scratches, whispers. Sometimes I catch a glimpse in the corner of my eye, like something small and patient is watching me. I thought I destroyed the doll, but maybe you can't kill what was never alive to begin with. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I see it, waiting in the dark for me to let it back inside.